here is our agenda. So we're already into introductions, and we've got a recording going. Thank you for doing that, Wakas. So today, a lot of what we're talking about is more about what are employers looking for, and how do you understand employers, and how do you understand different industries and fields, and then how do you bridge the gaps? Knowing what employers are looking for, how can you make sure that you're having those things? And in that point, we're going to talk a bit about VU library resources. And we've got a guest with us. Robbie's going to tell us a bit more about that. So thank you for joining us, Robbie. The second half, we're going to shift, and we're going to shift to kind of, so one way of thinking about kind of career development, a very abbreviated form of it is know yourself, know your employers, the world of work, kind of what's out there, and then bridge the gap. And so a lot of what we're going to be doing today is sort of knowing the world of work, bridging the gap, and then thinking, how do you communicate that to others? And we'll be wrapping up with that stuff at the end. So these are some of the CMC staff members that we have joining us. So we did some introductions last time, but maybe you can all just like briefly say hello, those of you that are with us. So Zeke, do you mind starting with a quick hi to everybody and anything you want?
Yeah, of course. Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're at. My name is Zeke Artiaga. I am the Associate Director and Coach for the MMARC program, and happy to be here this morning.
Awesome. Thank you, Zeke. Jenny?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jenny Ling, and I'm the primary coach for MS Finance students. And it's great to see you all today, and many people have joined from Monday as well.
Thank you. By the way, Jenny, quick question. I'm forgetting, what was your first job? Did you?
English teacher to kindergarten kids.
Oh gosh, that sounds fun, but also could be intense.
Much more daycare than anything else.
Glad you made it through that. Wakas, want to say hello?
So, hello everyone, I'm Wakas, and I'm working as graduate intern and career coach for Master of Data Science students.
Awesome. Thank you, Wakas. Thank you pulling a lot of pieces together for us. And I don't think Meryl is with us, but very grateful to have Meryl with us this summer too. Okay, well, great. Thank you all, and we're glad to have you here. Yeah, so you can see on the slide some of the different roles that we cover, but glad to have the different specialized master's programs with us. We touched on this briefly last time as well, but we're all on the coaching side of our office, and we do a couple of different things. We do one-on-one meetings, but we also do workshops like this one, virtual and in person, and we look forward to getting to talk with you more once you're here on campus. So this is sort of the structure for a lot of how we work with you all. This is how we think about the internship and job search process. And we also think about it in terms of skills. There's, with each step of this, starting at the bottom with career exploration that we covered in our last session, there are different skills that come with this and things that we want you to develop, because you're not just going to use this stuff at present, you're going to use these same skills throughout your life as you think about progressing in your career and moving roles, things like that. So today, the second and the third from the bottom, skill gap analysis and the story and the plan, that is where we are headed. So starting off, I'm going to talk briefly about a concept that we mentioned last time, and that's this idea of ikigai, which I enjoyed learning a little bit about. And the whole idea of ikigai is kind of trying to understand, sort of like I said the last time, sort of your purpose, your meaning, and finding that in what you do. So I would say in our last session, we focused an awful lot on the knowing yourself, the what you love, and the what you're good at. So sort of this upper left-hand side. But we didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking about what the world needs and what can you be paid for. So we're going to get a little more practical. And that's where we're headed here. And this is kind of a neat example. I think, Jenny, you pulled this together last time, but this kind of breaks down, if you're thinking, for example, you're thinking about working in real estate assets as a portfolio analyst, how can you kind of bring some of those different pieces of who you are together, and how could that relate to that being a career path that you want to pursue? So just a quick example of how you can kind of use that for thinking that through. But yeah. So I guess I'm going to start off with a question for you all and pose this all. And we've got chat if you want to hop in and share on this, or if you want to unmute yourself and answer briefly. How the heck do we know what employers are seeking if the icky guy is talking about what the world needs and what you can be paid for, especially what the world needs? How do you figure that out? Anything that's been helpful for you all? So curious to see what people have used for knowing that in the past. Job listings, job descriptions, reading the news, awesome. Online resources, Wall Street Prep, Wall Street Oasis, professional of the industry. Someone definitely think about financial services, Alec. Awesome. Good. Yeah, there's a lot of great online groups, especially kind of knowing if you've got a certain job function or industry, connecting with the community online can be so helpful. Job listings, yes. I'm so glad you all are kind of already ahead of me on this. So yes, job descriptions I know are not the most exciting things to read, but you can get some pretty good information from those that relates to this. So excellent. So I'm going to touch on one or two things first. One of them is this LinkedIn Career Explorer. This is a tool that I came across recently, and I'm going to pull it up just for a moment so that you all can see it. So this is the LinkedIn Career Explorer tool. A lot of it is using some of the existing data that LinkedIn has, and it's looking at some of the specific skills that are related to certain roles. This kind of walks you through sort of the how they put this together, finding these shared skills across different roles. So if you want to take a little more time, run through this. But the real part that I want you to see is down a little further, is this part. So you can select your city, you can select your job, and it does some pretty cool things with saying, okay, if you're thinking about data analyst roles, here are some other kinds of roles that you may want to consider, and here are some of the main skills that you may want to work on. And then it does this like, how similar are these skills? And you can even kind of see, okay, this data mining is a little bit more relevant for data analyst than it is for data specialist. For data specialist, databases are more relevant. And so you can kind of see these matches. So I think it's a pretty cool tool if you're thinking about career exploration, but also thinking about, hey, what the heck, if I'm going to work as a data consultant, what skills am I going to need? So yeah. So I'm going to drop that one in the chat. So hopefully you have some time and you can explore that as well. All right, so the next couple of tools I'm going to share get back to the very thing that we were just talking about, which relates to job descriptions. I'm a big fan of visualizing job descriptions. Use a free word cloud site online and pop in the job description. I did this for some roles that would be kind of relevant for you all. Account manager, which is I know we've had some data science students that have gone on to technical account manager roles, at least one or two. And then the second one is probably the more focused for the MSFs, investment and corporate banking. But yeah, you can get a sense then of, okay, what are the keywords? What are the skills? What are the things that employer is really looking for in that role? And hopefully this is great content for writing resumes and cover letters, things we'll be getting into next week. One last tool I'll mention is this job scan tool. I think this is a great way. You may know about the applicant tracking systems, the ATSs that a lot of large companies use. And this is just a really quick way to get a sense of that. So what you do is you put in a job description or a couple of job descriptions. You put in your resume. I will say, I think last I used it, you can use it 3 times a month for free before they ask you for charging. So it gives you this kind of quick analysis of, what are the keywords on the job description in your resume. So this person here, you can see, wow, job description is mentioning this keyword iPhone twice, but you don't have that on your resume. If you've got that, you may want to think about adding it. So, oh, awesome. And Wakas mentioned Mentimeter's word cloud. Thank you. Thank you for adding that. One of the great ways to get a word cloud like we were talking about last time. So 2 more things before we turn it over to Robbie to talk about how you can find some of this great information out there and what are the existing resources. I want to make one quick point on this, which is sometimes when we get into thinking about skills, especially some of the students that I've worked with who are extremely technical, start thinking, wow, really what makes the difference in finding a job is having the most technical skills. And if you can just load up your resume with a bunch of technical skills, different financial analyses, different programs that you're using for data analysis, then the better that your resume is going to be and the better you're going to be as a candidate. And I get the place that comes from, but I want to point out this. So this is some data that comes from GMAC, the folks who put together the GMAT test. And this is their corporate recruiter survey from 2022. And a quick question: if you look at the very top skills that the most employers are looking for, especially in the US, but just generally worldwide, is there anything that stands out for you all? Any thoughts that you want to add to the chat about that? Because I'm noticing a bit of a pattern, especially with the most desired skills. Oh, awesome, Wakas, thank you for adding that job scan. Okay, so you don't have to guess. Looking at the top 4, and those are the top 4s ranked by most important in the US. If you look over at the US column, the pattern that I'm seeing is a lot of these top skills are actually softer skills. These are not super hard, concrete technical skills out there. And I know some people are like, wait, what? Why is, aren't I here to learn some hard technical skills? And yes, you are. But I would put it this way. If you're coming to Vanderbilt, employers are going to look at you and they're probably not going to be too worried that you have the mental capacity to do the job. But I think a question they are going to have is, how can you relate to other people? How well are you going to communicate? How well are you going to be part of a team or lead a team? Some of those skills can be so important. So please don't discount those skills. They are so important, and that's usually a huge difference maker. So please keep that in mind. Don't take my word for it. That's what the employers are saying. All right, so last thing before we talk with Robbie is something that I would encourage you all to think about, and I'm going to drop in a tool that can help with this into the chat, is doing something that we call a gap analysis. And the gap analysis is basically, those of you who have been doing the MSF curriculum, you may have already encountered this, but the gap analysis, and I'm sharing a version of this document with you all in chat, gives you a chance to say, okay, what is the role that I'm going to pursue? And then looking through some different job descriptions for the role, what are some of the main requirements and qualifications? And this breaks it down into a couple of different categories. And then at present, can you meet that qualification? If not, then you really want to be thinking about how can you address that gap? If you do have what that qualification is, how can you give an example of that? And there's a great thing to be thinking about as you're working on your resume, you're thinking about networking, you're thinking about interviewing. This document could be something that you will come back to. So encourage you all to be thinking a little bit about that. This is a quick example of how you could start filling out the left-hand side, the requirements, qualifications, using an investment banking summer associate type role. So some of the MBAs, we're kind of using that to start filling it out. So just if that helps, I would encourage you to start thinking about that as you're thinking about what gaps do you have and how do you bridge them. Okay, that's what I have on that. And I would like to, as we're starting to think about how to bridge the gaps and how to get this information, I'm excited that we have Robbie joining us from the library. And yeah, Robbie, I'm going to turn it over to you for a bit and let me know if you want to have slides that you want to share, or if I can pull anything up as you're going.
I'm just going to want to share my screen, and I think it looks like I have that capacity already, so that's great.
Okay.
So, hi everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to meet you. I will officially meet you on August 5th at orientation, when you will get to meet the rest of our team. We actually have a dedicated team of 6 individuals in the Walker Management Library. So you have a dedicated business library right in the Owen building. So this is going to be a huge advantage for you. I am the librarian specifically for Mac. I work with all the groups, but I really work with the Mac students. My colleague H.T. Mackay works with the Masters of Marketing, and our director Kelly LaVoice works with the Masters of Finance students. Best way to contact us, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So this is not, there we go. Just a exercise. Best way to contact us is to email us. We have a shared inbox. It's at managementlibrary@vanderbilt.edu. So we know that you have this really compressed recruiting cycle. So I'm going to drop a link right into chat right now, so you don't have to remember where this is. We have put together a skills development research guide. So one of the advantages of being a Vanderbilt is that you have an incredible information advantage. You have access to over 100 business databases. You have access to all kinds of tools. For those of you in the MS Finance program, you have access to FactSet and Bloomberg and CapIQ and Icon and PitchBook. My Mac friends, some of those are going to be interesting to you. For the Masters of Marketing students on there here, some of those might be interesting to you, but we also have marketing tools. We have GIS programs and mapping tools that we work with the Masters of Marketing program. So I want to take this opportunity, it was a great segue from what Brooke was talking about, as you are looking at your job ads and you are saying, oh my gosh, you know, maybe you're seeing that everybody in your chosen industry is looking for Tableau or Power BI or advanced Excel skills. And you're like, you know, this summer is a really good opportunity for you to start upskilling before Mod Zero starts and you hit the ground running. So I'm not going to get really in depth. I only have 10 to 15 minutes with you today, but I do want to let you know about a couple of things. So one of our favorite databases we have is something called O'Reilly. So O'Reilly started off as a publisher of software instructional books. They are now much more complex. They do have a lot of information in there about software packages. So perhaps you're reading some of these job ads, you're doing your due diligence, you're starting to see things about R or Python, or maybe you're thinking, gosh, I'm going to have to do a lot of PowerPoint presentations, and I haven't really done professional ones. If you go into O'Reilly, there are tens of thousands of learning paths, videos, books. One of the reasons I love this resource is because no matter what your learning style, there are resources for you, right? There are case studies, so you can see, you know, there's even things about business communication. So as you're starting to think this through, this is one of the first places I would go to. Just go in there, use the search bar, see what they have, and start working on upskilling in those areas. I am going to kind of talk to my Macs and our MSFs for a little bit. So you're going to see here, I've got Bloomberg Market Concepts, Capital IQ, and Financial Platform certifications, right? So because you are a Bloomberg student, because you're an Owen student, you have access to Bloomberg terminals. Via that, you also have access to not only the Bloomberg Market Concept certification, but they have rolled out a couple of other certifications. The one that is most popular right now of those extras is they also have a certification on ESG. So as you're starting to look at industries, if you're starting to see that ESG is an important part in there, you might want to also do the ESG. We have information here about the BMC. You can do it on the terminals, but obviously most of you are not on campus or in Nashville right now. If you want to think about doing the Bloomberg certifications, just send an email to that managementlibrary@vanderbilt.edu and we can help you get set up. Mac students, most of you are going to have to use a version of Cap IQ when you are doing your internships during Mod 3. Strongly suggest you start working through Cap IQ. You do have to, for most of the financial platforms, you do have to set up your own individual account using your Vanderbilt email address. I'm working with Emily to set up some additional messaging for the Macs on this, but just know that's available to you. We also have this additional page that really talks about all the certifications. You can also get certified in FactSet, and you can also get certified in Refinitiv, that is going to be undergoing a name change. So depending on how financially focused you are, you may have been using Thompson 1 at some point in your academic or professional career, or Icon, that is now Refinitiv, soon to be LSEG. So this is all about that. Streaming video, we want to let you know that there are some streaming videos that you can have access to, both for education and entertainment. We have a ton of ebooks you can access, and we also have audiobooks. So I'm going to jump to another research guide we have, and I'm going to drop this link in your chat.
Robbie, well, you're already multitasking. We have some Masters of Science and Data Science students.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anything that would be different for that? No, you're fine. Anything that would be different with that group, or?
I would say that, again, O'Reilly is the one I always encourage everybody to go look at. You can probably go ahead and look and see what kinds of data platforms, software, you are going to have to be using both for your coursework and for your work after the program. So I will say one of the things we're really excited about, and we haven't announced any programming, but we just hired a new business data and analysis librarian that started in March, and he's developing some programming for Mod 1. So we already have a series that we do specifically on Tableau. Some of that's going to get baked in, at least some of the Owen classes. I can't speak to the data science program, but we know for sure we're going to be doing some Power BI sessions come fall, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing some Python sessions too. So definitely start with that O'Reilly. I can't say enough good things about it. So career research, this is the other part of your journey right now. And again, I'm not really going to go into anything in demo because we have a limited amount of time, but I am a strong believer that when you're getting ready to interview, even if you have like, this is my dream company, you can't understand a company unless you understand the industry it's functioning within, because it doesn't matter whether you're a Starbucks or Bongo Java, right? If you're a coffee shop, you're still dealing with the same micro and macro economic pressures, right? So I'm always going to tell students who are getting ready to do their career research, start with some industry prep. So we have this broken down kind of like by time frame. It's not unusual to get a student who shows up in the library and says, "Oh my gosh, I just found out this morning that I'm interviewing with Mars Pet Care this afternoon, and I don't know anything about the pet food industry." So you'll see we have it broken down by 15 minutes, half an hour, and then if you have some additional time, right? So we're always going to tell you to look at some industry information. The nice things about the two resources I have listed here, both First Research and IBIS World, they have these really fabulous executive talking points. I'd love to call those out because essentially what they do is they break down that industry C-suite, and they identify like two particular questions or bullet points that, for example, if you were the CMO in the pet food industry, these would be the two things that were top of mind for you, right? Along with a couple of sentences explaining what you would expect that person's answer to be about that particular topic. In addition, they will have examples of the kind of questions you would expect to hear on a quarterly earnings call, broken down again by things like marketing, strategy, financial. So, along with kind of like a cheat sheet answer of what you would expect to be hearing from someone in that segment in that industry. You know, when you go to interview, one of the most important things is, don't forget, it's a conversation, right? You need to find out about them too, but you want to go prepared and you want to have some questions in your back pocket that show that you did your homework. By using these questions that are embedded for within IBIS World and First Research, you really come across that you did your homework. And of course, you're going to want to do some homework on the companies you're interviewing with. For both kinds of companies, public and private, we always recommend that you go to this database called Hoover's. Of course, for private companies, you're going to have a tougher time finding information because they're not required to file any documentation or financials with the SEC. So public company information is always so much easier. And if you are looking at company information and it's a private company, I'm going to tell you, always go look at the SWOT analysis in Hoover's to find out what the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are for that company. Always look at some analyst reports. Hoover's tends to give you 3 to 5 relatively recent analyst reports for each public company. And I also say go look at the investor relations pages, right? And for private companies, go look at the About Us pages. Hoover's also has the ability for you to build targeted lists of company by, I think it's about 275 different variables. The ones we use the most are going to be industry and geography, but you could put in size of company, whether they're public or private, and this is all exportable. So this is a great thing for you to do this summer as you're like, well, I know I want to be in the consumer product good industry, and I know I want to be in the Southeast, right? So you can start building this list of companies that are meeting what you think are your desirable things in a successful job search. The other thing you have access to is have the Nashville Business Journal Book of Lists in the library, but you do have access to all 46 major metropolitan areas in the US, their book of lists. The great things about these is they have a lot of the top 20 companies in X industry in this city, right? So again, a lot of you are going to have geography considerations that you're taking into point. It's a great place to go and say, well, who are the top, let's say, venture capital firms in Chicago? And I've got directions there on how to get to that. We have information on advanced career research, including a link to Vault. Vault is great to go and look at for a lot of things. They have guides. One of the reasons our students use them the most is perhaps you've never done a case interview before. Perhaps you've never done a behavioral interview before. Maybe you want to know about doing a finance interview. Vault is going to have that kind of information in their guides. Advanced company research, I mentioned for private companies can be a little tough. You can go into Privco and get some information. I call out Refinitiv Workspace here. I mentioned Hoover's has like 3 to 5 industry analyst reports. Refinitiv Workspace for a public company can have up to 2,000 different analyst reports in a given year. Peterson's Career Prep also has some information. I use it more for undergrads, but wanted to let you know. We also have a vast array of career focused books, whether it's things like thinking through what you really want to do or resume and interview prep. For those of you who are international students or who may be looking to work internationally after you graduate, these are some resources we have for you to kind of investigate that particular area, we do have a list of websites that help with career research. And very last thing, one of the many benefits you have of being a Vanderbilt student is that between the chancellor and the library and the dean of the Owen School, you all have individual subscriptions to 4 different business publications. You have your personal access to the Wall Street Journal. It's the paper of record for the United States business community. You have access to the Financial Times, which is international in scope. It's based in London, right? We want you to have of our global economy. You have personal subscription to the New York Times, which is really for news, the paper of record for the United States. And you also have, as I mentioned before, access to, we call it here the Nashville Business Journal, but it's really much more than that. It's the entire suite, right? So, you know, yes, you have this gap analysis you're doing, right? But when you go to interview, right, it's kind of that soft skill, right? You need to, you never know what's going to come up in an interview, and you want to make sure that you are on top of business news. Right now, our news cycle is very robust and very quick, right? So even if you go and sign up for a daily newsletter that sends you the headlines, it's a great way to be up to speed. And then when you're on these interviews or you're thinking through this gap analysis and you start seeing in a bunch of articles that a particular thing is becoming more prevalent in industry, just another tool in your toolbox. So that's all I have for you today. Again, I'm going to drop our email in chat, even though it is on both of our guides. And can't wait to meet all of you in August.
Robbie, thank you so much for taking time for this. And I just love the fact that incoming students already get to access a lot of this great information. So please start taking advantage of it now. It's one of the great ways to tap into what you already have access to. Awesome. Thank you all for the gratitude in the chat for Robbie. She and the team are good people to know. I will say that the research guides that she'd walk through, that's definitely one of the, I mean, that's probably like a top 6 sites that I'm on in every day. So if you're doing career related things, please spend some time on that guide. So awesome. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Robbie. We appreciate it. And we are going to, we're going to take a little bit of a shift now. Get back to sharing my screen. We're going to shift to one last little bit about, there we go, about the gap, thinking about your gaps. And just a reminder that there's so many great resources out there, so many ways you can close the gaps that you have when you find gaps as you're doing your gap analysis or as you're reading through job descriptions. By the way, there's some interesting research out there about how some people are more likely to dismiss gaps and just apply anyways. The research I saw said that men are more likely to be like, hey, I don't, 60% match, that's good enough, I'll apply. And whereas some women, if there is that percent match, would say, oh no, I don't think I should apply. That's not enough. So I think a good thing to remind yourselves is whether or not you have the gap, the skills that you're looking for, they're looking for in a role, you can bridge those gaps. Like you can, so especially with you, a lot of the roles that you are going to be applying for will be roles you'll be taking in a couple of months or in a year even. And in that period of time, you'll have lots of opportunities between classes and resources to bridge gaps that you have. So good time to be thinking ahead on that. All right, so we're going to switch a little bit and we're going to start talking a little bit more about how you convey the skills that you have and your story and your plan and what that looks like. So that's kind of that sort of key part of the core of the Ikigai is that purpose. How can you kind of convey that? How can you let others know what that is? So if you've been involved in doing an internship or job search, you have encountered this phrase, tell me about yourself. So curious in the chat, Those of you who have encountered Tell Me About Yourself or walk me through your resume, when did you experience that? What was the setting where you experienced that? And then what in the world does that mean? Or what do you think they're really looking for when they ask that? So anybody in the chat or want to unmute yourself and add to that? If you have not encountered the Tell Me About Yourself question or the Walk Me Through Your Resume question, you will at your time at Vanderbilt. So, oh, awesome. First, to walk them through some relevant undergrad experiences and internships. Yeah, they really mean, who are you? What have you done? And what do you hope to do? Yes, yep, that's a good way to put it. Nice way to summarize that. Yes. Yeah. Yep, want to get to know you as a person. So it can be more than just the work experiences. Yes, which is interesting. Sometimes if they say just, walk me through your resume, they may not want that. Whereas tell me about yourself. Maybe they want to know that a little bit more. Usually one of, if not the first questions they're asked, yeah, Sam, interviews, networking, career fairs, all of those places, you're going to get some variation on that. Yes, yep. Liv, you bring up a great point. They want to go beyond your resume. So a lot of them already have your resume. So what can you bring to that? Yeah, Ross, I love what you've got there. Kind of, we talk sometimes about the airport test. Wouldn't this be someone you want to be stuck in an airport with? Would you want to be, in the trenches working hard with that person? So yeah, yep, definitely. They're looking at communication skills, wanting to understand your personality. Yep. Absolutely. So you're going to get this question. So it's good for us to be spending a little bit of time thinking about that. So that's where we're headed. So briefly, a couple of things I would keep in mind if you're thinking about this kind of a question, and you're thinking about, how do you answer this? Typically, people remember stories. I mean, as much as facts and details are important, stories are what really makes people memorable. So we'll come and talk back about this some more, but think about how you can give your resume walkthrough in a bit of a story type format or tie it to specific stories. And as the second point points out, part of the reason stories are good is the whats are important, but also the whys. Like, you want to communicate not just what you were doing, but transitions can be important. Why did you move from one thing to the next? Why are you starting here at Vanderbilt? And why is it that you want to make a certain next step? Okay. And then I hear we do a lot of mock interviews in the CMC, and I will say, of all the questions, if I were just to say which question do I think people most often can benefit from working on, it's this question, and tell me about yourself, walk me through your resume. And I think one of the mistakes that I hear most often is I feel that people will end their story saying, and now I'm here at Vanderbilt studying this. And I would say, no, please take that another step and talk about where is it that you want to go. Connect that to the person that you're talking to, what they're doing, especially if you're in an interview. I think you want to end with, and that's why I'm here interviewing for this position, and I'm really excited to work in this role. Take it that next step. Okay, so a few things that I think may be helpful in pointing this out. So we talked a little bit last time about this James Marcia's idea of identity development, and we talked about the importance of having a crisis and then also a commitment to have identity achievement. So this puts it in another way. To get to that upper right-hand corner where you've explored options and you have a sense of what you want to do with your life, there needs to be a crisis and a commitment. And a crisis, well, not fun while we're going through them, that can be a great part of a story. Obviously you don't want to get into all the nitty-gritty details of crisis, but helping people understand why it is that you chose the path that you're on. So there are a lot of different frameworks out there for building a story and kind of talking through your experience. This one is pretty simple, and I'm a big fan of it. So we'll be spending a little time thinking about this, but basically spend some time talking about the past, what you've been doing, Then move to the present, which, you know, for a lot of you is going to be the graduate program that you're entering. And then the future, you know, where is it you want to go after you know, data science students, you've got an internship, master's marketing students, some of you will do, well, some MSFs as well will do an internship while in the program. So why are you wanting to do that internship? And then especially for full-time roles, why do you want to move to that full-time role after? So thinking about that. So with the past, it's often really helpful to talk a little bit about the spark moments, the aha moments, the moments where you say, oh, wow, this is something I'm interested in. This is something that I want to do. The eureka. Wow, this is something that I think I want to spend more time on. You can certainly talk about key experiences. You can certainly hit on some of the things in your resume, but as pointed out in chat, you're not just reciting your resume. Please don't do that. If they want to do that, they can just read your resume. And you want to think of the transitions. Why is it that you're moving from one thing to the next? You want to spend some time on your present, the degree you're doing now. Why are you taking that degree? What are the skills you're working on? You know, what convinced you that that's the next thing to do? And then the future. Where are you going? A quote that this reminds me of is a Stephen King quote. Well, some of his writing is very interesting. I enjoyed some of his, he's got a book on writing where he's talking about his process for writing. And he says, if as a writer, you're going to put an axe on a wall, you better use that axe come later. You know, maybe you're going to tease that that's there. So if you're going to tell something early on in your story, please make it relevant to that employer that you're talking to, right? Don't put something out there if it doesn't tie into the experience you want to pursue. So yeah, you write that axe into your story, please come back to it and talk about the meaning of it. This is another framework that this comes from someone called Joseph Patton, who did career services in business school for a long time. And he kind of talks about kind of breaking it down with the different positions. And then why is it that you're at Vanderbilt? And what is the position that you're wanting to go from? And kind of a nice linear kind of rising structure. Also, I like on this, he has that box of what are the preferred skills for the target positions. So you're trying to relate back to those target skills. So this is another framework you can use. I think it's, you know, just another way of kind of that past, present, future. Finally, I'll say, I think it's no coincidence that a lot of this ties back to something that's, you know, common in storytelling, this kind of rising action, some conflict, some climax, and then sort of resolution. So I see definitely some sort of commonality in that. So again, having your tell me about yourself answer, having it include some stories, something that people can relate to, will make it meaningful. So what we're going to do for a couple of minutes is I'm going to give you all a few minutes, and we're just going to all do this individually. And I'd like you all to open a document, grab a piece of paper. A lot of you have already thought this through, but I'm hoping with some of the things that we've talked about, that maybe you're thinking, hey, I can improve the way I could do my tell me about yourself. I can improve my story. So I'm going to give you all 3 minutes. I'm going to turn off my screen. If you get stuck on this, if you're getting writer's block as you're kind of mapping out your story or thinking about this, I'd encourage you to, if you were with us last session, your wandering map could give you some great content. Your LinkedIn profile, any grad school entrance essays may be helpful. So some of those things may give you ideas, but start trying to map out your story. And I'll say the exercise we're going to do next is giving you a chance to put some of that into practice. So, all right, so we'll be back at 9:50. So go ahead and spend some time working on that. And then if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. Let everybody work quietly. We'll be back in 3 minutes. If you feel good about this, you can get yourself a drink. Good time of the day for Philip on coffee, at least here in the US. And we'll see you in just a moment. All right.
Could you potentially go back to the story arc slide, please? I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
That's a good call. I'll rotate through a couple of these slides that may be helpful. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, I can feel some good productivity here, so hope you've got some good ideas down on paper. All right. So, part of the reason that we worked on that is because we're going to do one more exercise. And that next exercise is we want to give you all a chance to practice your story. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set up some breakout rooms. And as we do that, go ahead and just be thinking about how you want to communicate this to other people. What I would suggest is that as you're thinking about your story, I would think about, or as you're doing this activity, I would think about how can you do this in such a way where, like if you have, we'll hopefully have rooms, we'll have 2 or 3 people. What I would do if I were you is do it in such a way where you are maybe not telling everybody exactly what kind of role that you're figuring it out, or what kinds of industries you're wanting to pursue, and see if people are able to go ahead and figure that out just by your telling your story. So hopefully that will help. Okay, so gonna go ahead and open that up. And I will say, staff members, I didn't have a chance to filter you all out. So if you would, you can just go ahead and kind of move yourselves around a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and open those rooms if you would. So rooms of 2 and 3, hopefully give each person about 2 minutes to tell their story and then flip. If you have chance, go ahead and give each other some feedback and we'll come back together. All right. Opening up the rooms now. And we will see you all in about 6 minutes. If you run into any questions or have any issues, just stick around and we can help with that.